Welcome back to One in the Trenches podcast. I'm Johnny Jones. This is Patches Kaplan. We've been gone for a week, but we're back. What's up,
Johnny,
Patch?
how was your Thanksgiving?
Great. It was great. Had a
Yeah,
good
you're looking a little
time.
heavy.
Everything was good except Thanksgiving night, leaving Michaela's Thanksgiving, got a flat tire, 11:30 at night. Awful. But ended up being okay. And then the next morning, drove my sister back to Penn State, caught the Penn State Maryland game down there. Big win for the Nittany Lions. They headed to the Big Ten championship game, so it was all worth it.
Was there any nerves whatsoever about the Nittany Lions going down 7-3? Were you like,
Well, you didn't watch the game, did you?
I saw the highlights. It was kind of a
So
slaughterhouse after that first 2 or 3 drives.
so first two plays.
Yeah.
So like it was cinematic. Like right as the band was coming off the field to start the game, we get like I'm watching Ohio State Michigan go final on my phone. My family's going crazy. The whole stadium's buzzing because like if we beat Maryland now, we're going to the dance. So it was crazy. And then first play, handoff, Penn State fumbles, and then next play, Maryland, credit to them, just took a shot. They've got some good receivers on that team, Ty Felton especially, but they took a shot, scored, and Penn State's down 7-0. Like, dang, is Maryland live in this game? Then after that, Penn State kind of took over. That defense really, after that one play, that D-line so ferocious, kind of shut everything down, and then they got Tyler Warren active, and kind of was a slaughter after that. But no, it was definitely an exciting place to be, especially after Ohio State lost.
Yeah, I'm hoping they get a home game. I think that'd be really, really cool.
Yeah.
For the Penn State fans not having anything like that. I don't know what they would do in terms of like a whiteout or, there could be snow. Most likely will be snow by the time that game is played out in Pennsylvania.
And it's weird, like, who's going to get the night game? Who's going to get the midday game, the noon slot? Like, that's going to be very interesting to see how, like, all those games get placed.
Do you think that the committee is going to consider rematches at all in the playoff? Like, let's say, like 8-9 just happens to fall at OSU Penn State. You think they're going to put it at, I don't know, Indiana at 9 instead of Penn State or something, just because they're a little bit like, we've already done this one?
I'm pretty sure that the commissioner of the playoff committee came out and said rematches are inevitable and there will be some. So I think they're taking in mind. I think they don't want it to happen in the first round because I think what's exciting with the 12-team playoff is like, a Clemson Penn State or like SMU goes to Neyland and plays Tennessee. Like I think they want those kind of flashy new matchups, but I think it's probably inevitable depending on how the next week goes.
Yeah, so our friend Keith brought something up to me, and I thought it was an interesting approach as I argue legitimacy. So we have, and I want to talk about last week and 2 weeks ago, really, really quick. As I argue the legitimacy of the ACC and the Big 12, Keith brought up a good point. Our friend Keith, he said that no one in any of the conferences is from that conference originally, right? So we have SMU, who's playing for a conference championship. Texas is from the Big 12, now in the SEC. SMU was in the AAC, now in the ACC. Then we have Oregon, Pac-12 is now in the Big 10, and then ASU was in the Pac-12, is now in the Big 12. Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. It does make sense in the sense of that conferences, I feel like, are a little bit closer, but at the same time, it just goes to show how butt cheeks the ACC and the Big 12 is. I want to go into that really quick, Johnny. Just talk about last week and 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we had, I'm just going to fly through this.
Yeah, go for it.
We did 7 games, puts our total up for guessing at 92 games. Currently, you are 41 for 92. I'm 49 for 92, so I'm still batting decent above 50%, which is good. You are winning the Cheesecake Factory 26-18. We both lost. You picked Pitt against Louisville, a very inconsistent Louisville. I picked Vandy against a very inconsistent LSU. We both lost that one. The games we picked were Indiana versus OSU. OSU covered that one. I do want to talk about that game, Johnny, so I'm going to put a little star there just because, and I'm going to ask you to try to remember, because that game was funky. It
was weird.
Ole Miss versus Florida. Florida, very up-and-coming team. Ole Miss has no pedestal to stand on at this point.
Lagway's legit.
Minnesota at Penn State, Penn State at Minnesota. Thought Minnesota was going to do that one. Penn State,
I kind of think that was a game where James Franklin showed the fan base and showed the national media, I can be ballsy. I'll go for it on 4th and 1, or I'll throw on 3rd and long to extend the game. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like he kind of showed, I'll win. I'll be ballsy and win games. And I think that's a good sign for Penn State fans going into the playoff.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that that game was fun to watch. I didn't think Penn State was going to pull it out. They're really gritty and tough games. Another one I wrote down was Notre Dame Army. You and I both picked Notre Dame. You picked a score 45-14, and I'm looking up the exact score. Holy cow, Johnny, you were so close. It was 49-14. You picked 45-14. That's kind of crazy.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Then we had Vandy versus LSU. LSU covered pretty easily. Texas A&M versus Auburn. One of the craziest sequence of events ever.
Yeah,
lost a lot of money on that game. Can't pay my mortgage this month. Not a good situation for me. Kansas, the Cinderella second half of the year, I would argue is before they lost all juice going into last week, but that three or four game stretch was electric.
Electric, man. They single-handedly turned the Big 12 race on its head.
They did, and that's what college football is about. It's like, yeah, you might not have a great year, but you can really set some teams on fire. Going back to the Indiana OSU game, that game people will make fun of Kurt Cignetti, and they make fun of Indiana saying they weren't ready for the dance, they weren't sized up enough, they weren't this, they weren't that. I didn't think that it was that lopsided. If you take out the two special teams plays in that last second touchdown, obviously you can't do that, but those two special team plays in that last second touchdown, 21 points.
Yeah, I know. That was huge. I do agree those two special teams plays were tremendous. I just felt that Indiana was severely outmatched, like athlete-wise. Like on the outside, I think like Will Howard and Ohio State was able to, especially in that second half, kind of have their way with that Indiana defense, kind of spreading the ball out. We saw Carnell Tate, who really doesn't get enough talk.
Very talented.
You got Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate was electric that game. I also think everyone knows the defining factor was that Ohio State pass rush. Like
couldn't do anything.
When Indiana needed like a 3rd and long or 3rd mid-range conversion, Ohio State sent the house, and you really didn't see Indiana respond to that. I do agree with you. Those special teams plays, you take that out, it's a lot closer of a game.
Yeah.
I just think Indiana, like we got to remember this is Kurt Cignetti's first year. It's going to take him a year or two. Like they got some great portal guys in on that team. But to be a legit contender, they're going to need to get bigger and faster on the outside.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that game's closer than people make it out to be. And, that game, it's tough because in the time it was like, they actually kind of competed well. They could be a very good team. And then OSU does what they did over the weekend. And, it kind of nullifies what people feel. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I want to jump right into that game.
Let's go.
And I want to talk about one thing in particular that
Ohio
now that
State,
I'm
Michigan.
reflecting on it does not sit well with me.
So we're talking about Ohio State, Michigan.
Ohio State, Michigan. Now we are on to last week's rivalry.
You got it.
Rivalry week.
Yes.
There it is.
A+. Right.
So I started watching the game, and when I was watching it, I was in the midst of eating some brisket. I had some deviled eggs. I was really gorging myself. Yes. And I quickly looked down on my phone, and I bet OSU to score a touchdown first drive. Failed. Bet them to score a touchdown the second drive. Failed. Third time, failed. Fourth time, failed. My count's at 0. And I had $5 a pop, $20 for the weekend. I was like, what the hell? And I don't even know what to say with it. You have arguably the 3 best receivers in college football, literally 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
If not that order, top 6. And none of them were playmakers. None of them were game changers. None of them did anything. Our boy Will Howard was genuinely the worst I've ever seen. And I sit there and I'm watching the game, and the whole time I'm thinking to myself, this drive they're going to take off.
Yeah.
This drive they're going to take off, right? 14-3, 21-3. And I predicted in my head a score of close to 35-7. And then it was just mistake after mistake after mistake. And the 2 missed field goals are something that's inexcusable, both within 35 yards of each other. That's an inexcusable thing to do. Your defense gives a hell of performance. Granted, that offense is terrible, but they still give a really good effort. I'm just in absolute disbelief. And this feels almost sinful, Johnny. Like, I feel almost dirty. Like, I got to wash my mouth out with soap after saying this. What the hell is going on in Columbus with our boy Ryan?
I don't know. So, a couple things from this game, a couple big takeaways for me at least, was looking into that game. You look at matchups. Michigan's defense, Will Johnson's out, probably one of the top 5 corners in college football this year.
Yeah.
What's Michigan good at on defense? They probably have 2 of the best D tackles in the game. Yeah. Ohio State is severely wounded right now on the offensive line. We've talked about it. Their center's out, left tackle's out, and I think one of their backups is out. So, and what else? Where do they succeed for Ohio State? They've got, as you just said, unbelievable talent on the outside. Yeah. So it kind of just, it's just so confusing to think that Ohio State goes into that game and they're like, Michigan's run it down our throat the past 3 years. What do we want to do? We wanted it almost seemed like they had a point to prove that they can win the same way Michigan won. Because when did the 2 times Ohio State went down and scored and really made some momentum offensively was the first drive where they threw it and settled for a field goal, and then the last drive before the half where they had to go 2-minute drill. They spread the ball out, and they kind of shredded that Michigan defense. Besides those 2 drives, they completely went away from that and decided they were going to just go run heavy. And 2 things come to mind when I say that. Do we think Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, they wanted to do that just because Michigan had done that to them the past couple of years? Or do they see Will Howard get smoked one play and then throw an early pick, and then they were like, we don't trust this guy? And if that's the case, it's more of an indictment on Ohio State because they went out, they got Caleb Downs. They went out, they got Quinton Judkins. They got these star-studded transfers from all over the country. But when it came to quarterback, I don't know if they were cheap or if they didn't want to spend the money, but like if you're going to spend the money all these other places, because Caleb Downs and Quinton Judkins are getting a lot of money. Yeah. Spend that money on Will Howard. That's the most important. On quarterback. That's the most important position. Yeah. So like Will Howard might have lost the job to Avery Johnson this year. That was like a legitimate battle for Kansas State going into this season. So the fact that they went out and got him, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, the whole game plan just seems sickening. I like what you said. It did seem like they almost had like this vengeance, right? Like this. Yeah. I want to prove a point that we are tough, we are smash mouth, we are between the tackles, and good luck shoving as many people in the tackle to tackle box and try to stop us. You're not going to. But in the flip side, they didn't do anything with it.
They wouldn't get away from it.
Yeah, if I'm calling this game, I'm saying, regardless of Will Howard's embarrassing performance, I'm saying let my playmakers, my 3 wide receivers, go get open. It is impossible to miss them. And at that point, it says, hey, Ohio State tried and did what they could. Will Howard's just that bad, which he is.
I think it sucks for Ohio State's defense because if you think about how Michigan scored, Will Howard throws a pick like within 10 yards of his own goal line. So Michigan gets the ball at the 10-yard line. They scored there. And then another time they turnover and Michigan has to just go 5 yards and kick a field goal. It's like guys like Jack Sawyer, Columbus kid, got that pick in the red zone. Other guys on that team, on that defense, Caleb Downs with a pick, like they balled out. And they just got let down by maybe the most talented offense in the entire country.
So it's tough because, I was a part of a defense that had at times a really struggling offense.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name years. It's a tough situation to be in because you want to point fingers. You want to say, hey, we held them to 2.5 yards per rush. We held them to 6 points. We held them to this. Can you guys just do something? And you can tell Jack Sawyer engaged the tight end and then dropped back in coverage, or engaged the tackle and then dropped back and got that pick on the goal line. That he was on the sidelines and he was looking at Will Howard and he was just like, they went 3 and out. I'm pretty sure. Maybe it was on first down and then went 3 and out. And I was just, in my head, I was like, he's got to be so mother effing frustrated that they can't even put together a 40 or 50 yard drive and get a field goal. a team that is invested in Chip Kelly, a team that is invested in Ryan Day, a team that is invested in Ibuka, Tate, Jeremiah Smith, Quinshon
Judkins, Travion Henderson.
It's endless. It just blows my mind. Like the play calls were inside zone, power, inside power. Like they were so generic.
And we saw Michigan struggle this season against a lot of teams, but especially against Oregon and against Texas. And what did those teams do? They got the ball on the outside, and they just made Michigan get in a track meet. They made those D tackles make tackles on the outside.
Yeah.
And then they got like Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant. They got tired, and then they found the run late in the game. They started running it like both Oregon and Texas. And then just Ohio State was so obsessed with establishing the run early on, and it just cost them.
It goes to show though on the flip side that like investing in the run is a key to winning games. Like Michigan has never deviated from that. They invest in their interior offensive linemen and their running backs, and they were able to run for 177 yards against Ohio State, a season high. And the flip side of that is I'll never forget Chip Kelly had a good running offense at UCLA last year. I think they were at 40 yards a game, and they brought him in instead of Billy O'Brien, and everyone's like, the run game that he's going to be able to develop, the run game. I was like, I don't think so. And they had done nothing but disappoint with this run game. I was expecting 180 yards rushing a game, 280 yards passing a game. I guess I just cannot fathom. And I don't know the exact stats. Let's say roughly 90 plays for Ohio State, how Jeremiah Smith didn't have 7 catches for 80 yards. Ibuka had 5 catches for 55 yards. Tate had 2 catches for 28 yards, and just kept spreading it. And I'm gonna go as far to say is that coaching performance was so bad from top to bottom. And you got to look at it at full picture, right? You went out and got Will Howard.
Yeah.
Everyone in their mothers, your bus driver, your postmate, like everyone knew that guy is a bum.
You can't tell me that Ohio State's NIL isn't comparable to Miami and Oregon. I know Oregon has Nike money. Like
5-star from Georgia. He already has a red shirt under his belt.
Like they could have made a run at Cam Howard and Dylan Gabriel. Like there's a lot of quarterbacks out there also
what experience. And they were saying, listen, we have Caleb Downs and Trayvon Henderson, all these old linemen who have crazy amounts of experience. We want the most experienced team come December. So that's why we went with Will Howard. Someone who's played a lot of football.
I think what also needs to be emphasized is Michigan was also without Colston Loveland, like their best receiving play. Like I know he's a tight end, but he's their best receiver.
Yeah, that game was
ugly.
I don't like Michigan. I think
I hate
times. It is very hard for me to sit here and tell you I like Ohio State right now.
No,
I feel so ugly. Like so sick to my stomach with how they performed. The whole time I was sitting there, I was sitting on my couch, and I'm just thinking to myself, there is just no way Ohio State's going to lose this game.
Yeah,
there's just no way Ohio State's going to lose this game.
I'm sitting in Happy Valley at this Penn State tailgate. We're all freezing our butts off. We're eating soup just to keep ourselves warm, and we're like, we see Ohio State settle for a field goal. Like, they'll score next drive, and then we see Michigan keeping it close, like at the half, and we're like, Ohio State's going to come out and blow their doors out, spread the ball out, and then it just never ever happened, and we're sitting there shocked, and we're like,
it warrants between that and something we haven't even mentioned at the fight. That almost warrants firing Ryan Day. I know that sounds crazy, right? He's 65-4 against every other team that's not Michigan. He's 1-4 against Michigan, right? He has 9 losses in his head coaching career since 2017. That sounds crazy to want to fire him. When you get, and I hate this term, but when you get alphaed by barely a bowl eligible team, they beat you on every aspect of that game. What's crazy is that I'm going to take a step back. They did not beat them on every aspect of the game. They got so lucky across the board. 2 missed field goals, multiple picks, right? Their players being out. Like the fact that they were able to somehow will a win over their arch rival, arguably the biggest rivalry in college football, it just blows my mind. You have to say, like, is Ryan Day the best for the program?
The only reason why I'm going to push back on that is because I don't think you can fire him right now because
You don't think even with
Ohio
the
State's
you're thinking, yeah, but they also got in a legit fist fight with Michigan and got blown out by a 5-5 team. I'm gonna go as far to say is that Michigan loss looks very similar to I would say NIU for Notre Dame. People
I
are
know.
Notre Dame's loss is so bad. That
All
Michigan
it's,
as bad as it gets.
oh no, 100%. But I'm just saying, like Ohio State's going to make the playoff, and they still have one of the most talented teams in the country. I think firing a guy right now, it creates such chaos in the locker room and with your players. Like you got to play for this playoff right now, and then whatever happens at the end of the season happens. But I'm just saying, they're still alive. They can't focus. They can't spend time focusing on this loss because they have a really great shot to go out there and win the national championship.
I don't know. Even with a natty, I'm gonna argue it. The
No,
taste in my mouth is not going away.
I know.
And that's a crazy thought because I'm going to contradict that with literally everything I'm going to say in the next 45 minutes or so. I'm going to contradict that, but that just goes to show how important this game is, in that how important winning this one was. I'm just blown away. If I'm the AD, if I'm Ryan Day, I am 100% taking over call playing duties. I know he's good friends with Chip Kelly. It just ain't there. It just is not there. That game frustrated the hell out of me. I thought he was a huge Sally watching the fight go on. And then I think I sent you the video of him asking Jack Sawyer when he's losing his mind what's going on, just standing there watching. Dude, you're your head coach. Go
Yes.
apart. Like if you ran and told two guys fighting stop, they would listen to you. You're your head coach. He just sat there and watched, and it just goes to show like how self-conscious and kind of egotistical he is in the sense of like his pride, because he was so, well, we're gonna run it down their throats, and then when the going got tough, like he had no counter to it. I don't know. I'm spewing a little bit. It just I'm blown away. I defended Ohio State and Ryan Day so much, and then that's what they put up. It's like truly saying like, don't meet your heroes. I am just so disappointed in them as a group.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll push back a little. I think banners fly forever. If they go out and win it, all is forgiven because there's only one champ at the end. But I do want to interrupt to say the college football playoff rankings are starting to come out. I'll update as the show goes. I think you should start talking about Texas A&M right after I give you the first five because I have one talking point about the first five.
Oh,
So,
first five already out?
well, no, like 25 to 21.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so ready? 25. Memphis, 10-2.
Whoa.
24, Army, 10-1.
All right, Army.
23, Colorado, 9-3.
Have a good
22, Syracuse, 9-3. And 21, Illinois, 9-3. And my first point I wanted to make, and that's why I interrupted you, was Illinois and Syracuse, both 9-3, both mid-20s or early 20s. I think the SEC gets so much bias when it comes to mid to bottom tier teams. Like you see Alabama, you go lose to Oklahoma, a bad Oklahoma team. And I think all the Paul Feinbaums and all the SEC lovers of the world will be like, it's hard to win in the SEC. It's hard to win in the SEC. But when a team like Oregon or a team like Penn State beats Illinois or a team like, I don't know, someone beats Syracuse, like Clemson beats Syracuse, people are like really quick to be like, those conferences aren't deep. And I think those teams like Minnesota, Illinois, Syracuse, those are great football teams that are getting severely disrespected when we hang our hat on at mid to bad tier SEC teams.
It's crazy the difference in narratives, right, Johnny? What you're saying is that like basically you're only in the Big Ten, you're only judged by your wins, right? Who did you beat? That's Indiana's thing. Who did Indiana beat? But in SEC, it's like it doesn't matter who they beat. It's who did they lose to?
Yeah.
Which is such a stupid argument, and I'm going to go and talk about this a lot as we go further and further into our predictions for the conference champions. But it's like it's ridiculous that you're saying you're arguing a loss. You lost the game.
Yeah.
You should not be losing these games, yet you are, and that's why I don't think I'm just going to throw this out there. Bama should not be in the playoffs. Their losses are
100% about Bama because we're too focused on that they beat Georgia, and Georgia's a great football team. We're too focused on that, but we're not thinking about them losing to a bad Oklahoma team. Yeah. Where on the flip side, I don't think the ACC is a good conference, but I think the Big Ten has a lot of great middle tier teams. Minnesota, Illinois, I just said all those teams. But I think Oregon and Penn State and Ohio State, they don't get credit, or Indiana, they don't get credit for beating those teams. Whereas we're gonna throw a parade when Ole Miss beats one of those, like us. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it's ridiculous that the SEC is allowed to cannibalize themselves with no consequence. But if you one out of the Big Ten, you're fraud alert.
We got our next 5. Let me know what you think.
20
UNLV.
All right, now
that's important.
That
later
is.
on. 19 Missouri. Gross. Like, that's a team. Missouri's disgusting.
What are they smoking? Like,
dude,
honestly, this is week in and week out.
They've been, I know they're 9-3, but they got killed by A&M. Like, killed. Okay, 18 BYU, 10-2.
Good season for them.
Great season for them. BYU, 17. Clemson, 9-3, which is huge because they're at 17, but with one win, they're in
the playoff at 17. Literally 6 days before the playoff is announced. That's disgusting.
Similar boat, 16, Iowa State.
Yep.
And that's it right there.
That is crazy, Johnny. You know, I think that Clemson had that really, really good stretch. They've yet to really impress me. Go out the 18 that really, you know, sets them off. I think their offense has stalled after that kind of 5-game stretch. South Carolina really took it to them. That I don't know if you saw the highlights yet. That South Carolina player, Lenore Sellers, is going to be a Heisman finalist next year. I'm all but certain of that.
Yes.
It blew my mind. I wanted to buy a jersey after watching this play, right? They were down, I think, 14-10. You needed a touchdown. It was 3rd and 18 on like the 26-yard line. Literally juke.
And went for it. It was like a video game play. It was like, I'm just smash and juke.
Bigger, stronger, faster than every other player on the field. And I was just like, holy cow. Like, I knew it was going to happen too. I was like, oh, he's just going to scramble. And I did not know that's what it was going to look like. Excuse me. This is going to bridge why I think South Carolina should be in the playoffs over Alabama. It's a crazy statement to say out loud, right? Because everyone does exactly what you and I were just talking about before we hopped on the pod, was Alabama and South Carolina played heads up.
Yes.
Yes, Alabama won that. But if you reverse the tide just a little bit and change the scenario just a little bit and say, okay, let's say they're both not competing for a spot, right? Then you would say the head-to-head matchup isn't as important. I don't think that head-to-head should mean as much as it used to. And the reason I'm going for that is we're exclusively saying these are the last spots in. They all have 3 losses. That's the first thing that people say is, of the 3 lost teams, who's getting in? That's what everyone says.
Yeah.
And you're not talking about wins. If you're not talking about wins, the head-to-head win should mean a lot less. So your one loss to Alabama looks a lot better than their 1 loss to Vandy, right? Your 1 loss to Ole Miss is a lot better look than their 1 loss to Tennessee, right? In your 1 loss to what was South Carolina's last one? No, they beat Kentucky. They lost to Ole Miss. LSU on a BS call is a lot better of a loss than Alabama's loss to Oklahoma. So if you're exclusively comparing losses, South Carolina's in a much better position. Maybe their wins don't line up, but we're not basing it off wins anymore.
But you said it earlier, like the SEC, we care about who you lost to instead of who you know what I mean? Like, is it wins or is it losses? Because I think you had a great point. Like, when it comes to conference, people judge you if your wins are better or your loss is better, and it changes conference to conference. I do have another hypothetical with this round, and it kind of goes into.
Before you jump to that thought, Johnny, I just gotta get this out there.
Yeah.
What is more important? Who you lost to or who you beat, in your opinion? Like, you're the commissioner, you're making the 12 spots tomorrow or Sunday morning at 8 a.m. You know, what means more to you? Like, you're an avid college football fan. You know plenty about college football. You're basing these off, and I truly think that the way they set it up now is that you have the 5 spots that are already slotted. The other 7 are what? The most deserving?
I think, I don't know, it's surprising to me right now, but I think it might be losses, and I'll give you 1 point, and it's because you played football your whole life.
Yeah.
The sometimes a really good team plays a bad team. Like we saw Oregon with Wisconsin, we saw Ohio State with Nebraska. Sometimes these really great teams kind of just get trapped in a dogfight. Weird things happen. Blocked punts, special teams, drop passes. You kind of get in a dogfight. You're in an away stadium. I don't know, whatever the reason might be, but good teams win those games. Good
Yeah,
teams
I
come
agree.
out with the win. And I
Yes.
think average to bad teams lose. Like Alabama, there's no excuse for for scoring 3 points against Oklahoma. There's no excuse.
There is absolutely none. And then it just doesn't make any sense. Their loss to Tennessee is somewhat justifiable. I don't think Tennessee is a really good team, but their Vanderbilt loss and their Oklahoma one, that Oklahoma one has got to be sitting there. I would agree with you. I think that evaluating losses is important because
Good teams find a way.
if you're a really good team, there's no reason for you to be losing to very mediocre teams.
Yeah.
You could be a really, really good team, right? Like, gun to your head, Johnny, what's the best college football team you remember?
My whole life?
Yes.
Oh, I know. Recency bias tells me like that 2019 LSU team, but if we're going to say my whole life, those early 2000 Miami teams.
Oh, you shut up. You were only 4 or 5 during that
I
time.
know, but I'm just saying if I look
You don't
back.
remember those. I'm going to go with, I think it was 2017 Clemson.
That team was so good.
I think it was Deshaun Watson and Hunter Renfro, like that year, where they beat Bama on that out route.
They had that linebacker. I can't remember his name. Skalski or something. Yeah. He had that cowboy collar who just tried to take people.
6'2", 260 or something.
He just tried to give people CTE.
Imagine if we took all of those teams, Johnny, and they all played. They're all great teams. Someone's got to lose. Someone has got to lose. So you could be a 3-loss team and have 3 of the best losses. Like, what if somehow, some way, there was a team? I'm just gonna make something up. Wyoming. Their out-of-conference game is Oregon. They have another out-of-conference game that is Georgia, and then they lose to their conference champion, right? You would have to argue that, like, yeah, they lost 3 games, but those 3 losses are really tough games.
You texted me a screenshot this morning, and it was Illinois. Like, Illinois.
Yes.
2 of their 3 losses are to the number 1 and the number 3 team in the country.
Yeah.
And they're at what? 21 right now?
21. Like that, it just doesn't make sense. Like, someone's got to lose the game. So I am evaluating off losses more than wins. I think that Georgia win that everyone's holding Bama onto is just stupid at this point, right? Like, Georgia could be a runner-up in the SEC at 9-3, and that completely null and voids it. Do we have 15 through 10?
Yeah, and I've got a hypothetical for you.
Yeah.
15, Arizona State, 10-2.
Yeah, to be expected.
14, South Carolina, 9-3.
First 2 out.
13, Ole Miss, 9-3. 12, Miami, 10-2.
Whoa.
And then 11.
You haven't said Alabama's just a joke right now.
11, Alabama, 9-3. But before you go ahead, I wanted to ask you one question.
Yeah.
So we saw UNLV in the 20s. We saw 16 was Iowa State, and we saw 15 is Arizona State. So we know Iowa State or Arizona State is going to make the playoff just because they're both playing each other in the Big 12 championship coming up. So this playoff is kind of flawed in the way that the top 4 conference winners are going to get the top 4 seeds. So if you win your conference, you're going to get, like, and you're considered the top 4 conference champions, you're getting a huge advantage of first round bye. What happens if you're the 5th or 6th best conference? Like, Arizona State might say they win, they make the playoff. Do you seed Alabama or do you seed Tennessee above them? Because on one hand, we're extremely rewarding a couple conference champions, but then we're not going to reward a couple other the conference champions. You know what I mean? Like, is Arizona going to get the 12 seed, whereas Boise or SMU is going to get the 3 or the 4? Because I think the gap there is insane. That, like, SMU could get the 3 seed and Arizona State gets the 12 seed, and they both basically did the same exact thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's a flawed system. Promising conference champions 1 through 4 and an additional Group 5 conference champion to get anywhere anywhere. Right? Yeah. It could be theoretical number 1. I think it's super flawed, Johnny, because like you said, it's overvaluing certain conference champions while devaluing playing a very tough schedule.
Yeah,
right?
and I'd be
Why wouldn't Mizzou go back to the Big 12? Right? They'll do much better.
They should. And if you're Arizona State or Iowa State and you win your conference and you get the 12 seed, I'd be BS because I'm like, who says Boise's better than you? Who says SMU or Clemson's better than you? And the advantage they get compared to you is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, no, it is so stupid because I absolutely hate how the first four are locked. I think this is my opinion, is that you win your conference champion, you're in the playoff.
Yeah,
that's what I can give you as a promise, right? Because there's funky years where, especially when there was the East and the West and the Big Ten, where a 6-4 Wisconsin was playing for the Big Ten championship. And I'm not saying that's ever going to happen again because we now have these mega conferences and we don't have the divisions within them. But I am saying that, like, we are on the verge of possibly seeing, like, we could have seen a 4-loss or we could see a 3-loss SEC champion, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's not that crazy to say a 4-loss team couldn't get in with their certain wins and the way they land and stuff like that. And it's sickening to me that we're saying, hey, just because you won the SEC, we're going to nullify all your losses, your top 4.
Yeah.
When that just should not be the case.
No.
There should be a scenario where there are people who can jump you. Like in the case of the SEC or the Big Ten, like, there's no reason why, if Ohio State took care of business, which we obviously know they didn't, Ohio State takes care of business on Saturday, there's no reason that Oregon should not be 1 in Ohio State be 2.
Yeah. Okay, I got my next.
Yeah.
I got my next 5. The top 10. 10, 11-1 Boise State.
Woo! They are fluctuating like a buoy.
And I got another good hypothetical. 9, 11-1 Indiana.
Yeah, I think we secured a spot, boys.
Yes. 8, 11-1 SMU. 7, 10-2 Tennessee. And 6, 10-2 Ohio State. And my question for you, Patch.
Wait a minute.
So you got Boise State.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Boise State, Indiana, SMU, Tennessee. Number 6 is Ohio State.
Yeah. Number 5 will be Notre Dame. 4 will be, okay.
Okay. This is my question for you if you're SMU. Right now, you're the 8th ranked team in the country. Are you the 8th ranked team because you're the predicted ACC champ, or because they actually think you're the 8th ranked team? Because this is the question. If they lose the conference championship game, I think everyone in the world knows the playoff committee won't put them in.
No.
They'll give it to Alabama, which is ridiculous because the playoff committee has already come out and said we're not going to punish teams for playing an extra week. We're not going to punish teams for losing a conference championship game. So if you're SMU, you're the 8th ranked team, but if you lose, you're out, which I think is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's they would have almost been better to have somehow, some way gotten in.
Got sick right now.
Miami got in, and they're just sitting at 10-1 or whatever they are. I would have to believe that if you make the conference championship, you would get in.
But they're not. If they lose, they're out.
You can't put those parameters there. I just think there has to be more consistencies with and someone was talking about it recently, is that, like, in the NFL, if you win your division, you get the bye and you get the home game, and there's some incentivizing, because all of the divisions, right, the AFC East and the NFC West, very similar to some degree.
Yes.
Right, the variability is limited. But by saying everyone gets a 1 through 4 and everyone gets a bye, saying that the ACC and the SEC are equal, which they're not. But on the flip side of that argument, I don't think a team with more losses should be, when their losses are comparable to teams that this team would beat, SMU and Bama, right? Like, I would take SMU at Oklahoma, and I would take SMU at Vandy. I would probably take SMU at Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why are we just saying holistically the SEC is that much darn better this year than any other team?
Yeah, I know. I just feel like
this is like, the privilege that they're getting just for being in the SEC is ridiculous.
No. Okay, I got my top 5, and then I've got the playoff bracket. But I'll start with the top 5. Number 5, 10-2 Georgia.
All right, there's a couple teams I haven't heard here yet, and I'm getting a little bit concerned.
Number 4, 11-1 Notre Dame.
There we go.
Number 3, 11-1 Penn State. We are. Number 2, 11-1 Texas. And then number 1, undefeated Oregon.
You know what's crazy? And just before you even tell me what the bracket is, if Penn State goes there, is it at Oregon or is it neutral field?
It's Indianapolis, and it was sick. Penn State's they're giving away like discounted tickets to the students. Like it's like a lottery. Carly already got her ticket. She's going to Indianapolis. It's gonna be sick.
Like if that is a worst case scenario for Ohio State if Penn State beats Oregon, because then obviously Penn State would be 1, Oregon 5, Ohio State would just get freaking bumped to 9, probably 8, probably.
And it's worst case for Indiana because if you move Ohio State down, you move Indiana down.
Oh gosh.
Okay, you want to hear the bracket?
Yeah, let me get it out. All right, how are you going about this? Give me the top left, 12-5.
I'll give you 12-5. I'll give you 9-8. I'll do the first round first.
Yeah.
This is looking good for my Penn State Nittany Lions. Okay.
Go ahead.
12-5, Arizona State versus Penn State in Happy Valley.
Yep.
9-8. Tennessee. Wait, do you want to predict the games or do you want
we'll go through and predict them in just a sec.
Okay. 9-8. Tennessee going into the Horseshoe and playing Ohio State.
That would be fun.
That would be such a fun game.
That would be really, really cool. Any team that plays Tennessee, I'm excited about for some weird reason this year. So then we have
number 11, Alabama visiting South Bend, Notre Dame. A rematch of the national championship game.
Worst case scenario for me.
Do you get nervous because you know the amount of Manti Te'o, Derrick Henry highlights that would just be all over ESPN.
So to give the audience a little bit of perspective, I was in 9th grade, Johnny. You were in 8th grade when that game happened. Yeah. And I'll never forget it. I was so excited. I had one Notre Dame football shirt. It was a gray t-shirt, black lettering. It said Notre Dame football. That is quite literally it. It was Adidas. And my dad used to work nights. None of my brothers came home. None of my sisters were interested. So I was watching the national championship by myself on my couch. It was 35-7 at the end of the first half. I'll never forget. I just literally turned the TV off and went to bed.
Yeah.
That's how sad it was. I was so hyped. I was jumping up and down. I was like, this is our year. You know, I'm not a bandwagon Notre Dame fan, but, you know, I was obviously a young fan.
Everett Golson was on fire that year.
Oh, that whole game made me sick to my stomach. And that is a matchup that makes me sick to my stomach. And I know I hate on Bama. And one of the reasons I hate on Bama is because I have no idea what they're going to do week in and week out.
No idea. Sometimes Jalen Milroe looks like the greatest athlete on the entire planet, and other times it looks like he's never seen a football before.
You play tennis, right, Johnny?
Yeah.
You know when you're playing someone who's never really played tennis and you're like, oh, they're going to hit it to the left, and then they just do like the spike shot to the right, and you're like, oh
yeah.
You scored 2 in a row against me. Like, I had no idea you were going to do that. That's what Bama seems like to me, is that you can study the film all you want, and then Jalen Milroe will go for a 14-second scramble and score a 66-yard touchdown. That is a terrible, terrible pick. I was really hoping that we would get the ACC. I do like being the 6. I just don't love Bama at 11. All right, so then we have
10-7. Indiana versus Georgia.
Yeah,
at Georgia.
Georgia would love that matchup.
Yes. And so then at the
back
fourth,
up top, we have 12-5 plays number 4. Number 4 would be
Boise State playing the winner of Penn State, Arizona State.
Ooh, juicy for you, dude.
Tennessee, Ohio State winner will play number 1 Oregon, which would be crazy. Oregon, Ohio State, possible matchup unless Tennessee.
That's a terrible space for Oregon to be in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes, yeah, whatever. We can go into it later.
Yeah.
Alabama, Notre Dame winner is going to play SMU. Crazy how Oregon might have to play Ohio State, but SMU plays. Okay. Indiana, Georgia winner plays number 2 Texas.
So like this, I hate this lineup because like we're going to see Georgia, Texas this weekend. We're going to see Penn State, Oregon this weekend, but we've also seen Ohio State, Oregon. And what I'm saying is that like after the first round, we could possibly see Ohio State, Oregon again. We could also see Texas, Georgia again.
Like that's probably the most fair seeding, but you're right. Like if they kind of have to do the most fair way because they can't really put an emphasis on teams that have played each other. Like you kind of got to be like wherever team is seated.
My big flip here, Johnny, and I would flip a couple. Is I would flip Bama and Indiana. So Indiana plays Notre Dame, and Bama plays Georgia. I think that's.
So wait. But you're saying Bama should be ranked higher than Indiana.
Just if I'm talking about like enjoyability and where the
enjoyability. Okay. Not because I was gonna say, man, that's surprising you put Indiana.
No, I don't think. I think Indiana's a good team. They definitely should be higher than a 3-loss Bama. I think it's ridiculous the credit that Bama's getting, but I'm just saying in terms of what I would like to see in the playoff, this is not my least amount. There's no games that I'm like jumping off the wall to see these matchups, especially in the first round. I think they're all.
I push back. Tennessee at Ohio State would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I think Alabama Notre Dame would be awesome. I know
it would be. That one just.
I'm saying from a partial fan, those are two such storied programs that ESPN, they're going to eat that up.
Yeah, no, that they will. All right, so go through them. I'm going to go quickly.
Let's go quickly, and then we'll get into picks for next week.
Yep. Let me just finish drafting this.
I think we can kind of agree the first couple.
All right.
I'm looking at the bracket, so I can also rip it off you. Penn State, Arizona State. I think
Penn State's going to be an 11-point favorite there. I think they both cover and win that game.
And do you know how cold it's going to be in Happy Valley? It's Tennessee, Ohio State.
They got to win. Excuse me, that Coke Zero's kicking back. Got to win 2 games.
Tennessee, Ohio State. I'm giving Ohio State just because I just don't trust Nico enough.
No, I think Ohio State's a really, really good team. I think that the spread would be close to 13 points in that one, and that they're heading to Oregon in the second round.
Bama, Notre Dame, dude. I really don't know.
I'm gonna go with Bama's a 4-point favorite. Notre Dame wins this game. I think that the environment would be tough. Notre Dame's never really had that. They don't lose at home all that often.
Yeah.
Don't you dare speak about NIU or Marshall. But they really don't. If you think about it, like before those games, last big game that they lost at home was Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And before that, I don't even remember what the last one was. So I would take Notre Dame against that one.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm thinking Notre Dame wins this game. And to be honest, that 6th spot is terrible.
The thing is, the thing what I'm confused about is like, I think Notre Dame has a great defense, and Jeremiah Love's awesome as the running back. But Alabama's confusing because sometimes they play Georgia and they score 1 billion points and their offense looks amazing, and then sometimes they play Oklahoma and their offense looks like they can't get a first down. So like it depends what Alabama team shows up, but I think Notre Dame's from a consistency standpoint more consistent. So I guess probably take them to win.
Yeah, no. So far you and I are pretty spot on. I would assume that these lines are pretty big. Penn State would be a double-digit favorite. OSU would be pretty close to a double-digit favorite. I think Bama and Notre Dame would probably be within 5 points of each other. Indiana, Georgia, I bet Georgia would be a 9-point favorite in that one.
The crazy thing is, like, Georgia's another highly inconsistent team. They played Georgia Tech. They played Kentucky really close. Sometimes they show up and Carson Beck doesn't feel it. But I think at the end of the day, Ohio State had the athletes to beat Indiana, and I think Georgia at the same way has those athletes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that Georgia would win this game. We would see a Georgia-Texas SEC rematch. Starting back up at the top, Boise State, Penn State, another 11-point favorite. Penn State would be over Boise, in my opinion. This game would probably be closer than the spread. I'm still going to take Penn State. I'll see you in the semifinals.
Yeah, no, I think Penn State, I think both teams are going to rely heavily on the run, but I think Penn State has the guys up front to slow down Boise State. And at the same time, I think then Penn State goes and they're a little more explosive on offense than Boise. I think they're a little one-dimensional Boise, which I think everyone in the country can say that.
Yeah, very much so. You get 8 guys in the box. It's going to be very hard for Ashton Jeanty to do much. Madison Maddox is a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I just think that they're going to be a little bit outpowered. I think it could be a competitive game. I think watching Ashton play in Happy Valley would be.
We said
OSU, Oregon. If you asked me Friday night who would win this game, I would say OSU. There's not an ounce of me that thinks OSU can pull this out. Knowing that, I'd probably bet my mortgage again on Oregon, and Oregon would lay an egg. You can't win. I'm going to go with Oregon. I bet the spread would be close to 4 points on this one.
I think Ohio State's down. I think Ohio State's a little flawed, and I think Oregon I don't know, man. I think they've got everyone all over the field. I've been saying that about Ohio State all year, but the more I look at this Oregon team, it's like it's just very hard to pick against them.
So the side note, the winner, so it'd be Penn State, Oregon in the semifinals, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we have Notre Dame. We both agreed Notre Dame would win that one against SMU. I think
Yep.
that my immediate reaction would be Notre Dame in this game, but I think that SMU is a gritty team, not a team that I would want to play. Also, still taking Notre Dame. I don't care. We're beating any ACC team this year in particular. We're a really, really good team out
Just
in.
join the ACC. Just join the ACC.
Enough's enough. You'd have three conference championships in the last like 5 years if you did it.
Just join the ACC. Just do it.
It doesn't make any sense. I think Notre Dame, like I said, is the best team that we've seen. They had 2 99-plus yard picks against Lincoln Riley in that offense. I didn't love the fact that we gave up 35 points, but that is a pretty high-powered offense. Notre Dame wins that game handsomely. We have Texas versus Georgia, another rematch. Right now, I think the spread's 2.5 towards Texas. Texas wins that one.
I'm picking Georgia.
Wow.
I don't like Texas's offense. I think Texas's defense is incredible.
Yeah.
I think Quinn Ewers, I don't trust him. I think he looked really bad in that Texas A&M game. I think he was trying to give that game away, and I just don't trust him. I think Kirby will pull that game out. I know Georgia is very up and down, but I think, they're a more complete team. I don't trust Texas's offense at this moment. I think what are we saying, man? Like Texas A&M pulled Quinn against Georgia. Like they were so confused. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It is a weird one. I do like how Texas has the ability to go to Archie in counter plays, in short yardage plays, and he can do both. It's not like an Alex Orji in Michigan thing where he's going to run the ball. He could do anything. I think that adds a really big advantage on third down, and I think we're going to see a lot of that this weekend. Is Texas dominating the third and short? I think that's going to be a huge focus on them.
Note that if this happened, that would be Georgia and Texas's third time playing this year, which would be kind of great.
I don't know how much I would love that, though. I think that's a bit much. I think 2 times is awesome.
I don't think, but depending on how this weekend goes, I don't think we'll see any teams play each other 3 times. I'm just saying if it did.
No, I agree with you. So now we have Penn State, Oregon, another Big Ten matchup. This one I can't really speak of until I see this weekend. I would.
Should we pause the Final Four? I think because we're going to we should pause it right now just because we're going to talk about Oregon, Penn State when we do our picks, and we're going to talk about Texas, Georgia when we do our picks.
Valid. All right. So we're going to pause. Notre Dame making the semifinals wins me $300. So fingers crossed. So we have a bunch of conference championships this weekend, starting with the Mountain West Conference. We have Boise versus UNLV. Boise is a current -4.4-point favorite. Johnny, I'm going to just list them off real quick for you.
We just as you announce the game, just give me the spread quick, just so I don't forget.
Tulane.
This is a playoff game. Like UNLV Boise, winner is in the playoff.
100%. I don't think either Tulane or Army has enough juice to get in. It has enough argument to get in. So it's definitely between Boise and UNLV. Tulane versus Army. Tulane is a 4.5-point favorite. Arizona State versus Iowa State. Arizona State is a 2-point favorite. Ohio versus Miami, Ohio. I couldn't tell you anything about the MAC. Miami, Ohio is -2.5. Georgia versus Texas. Texas is a current 2.5-point favorite. The biggest spread of the weekend, Marshall versus Louisiana. Louisiana is a -5.5-point favorite. We have Oregon is playing Penn State, a matchup I did not think I would see this year. Oregon is a current 3.5-point favorite, something I thought is a lot less than what I anticipated. I was expecting 6.5. And then finally, we have SMU versus Clemson. SMU is a current 2.5-point favorite, Johnny.
Yes.
So we have Boise versus UNLV, already played this year. Boise played them very, very hard, got the win. I don't believe they covered the first time, but last time I remember when they played last time, I think it was a 9-point game. Tough to beat a team twice in a year. I think that has to be stated. But I'm still taking Boise State -4.
Yeah, Boise. I think they're just too good.
We have Tulane is playing Army. Tulane is a 4.5-point favorite. Tulane has some tough games, a couple losses. They lost to K-State late, and I believe they lost to BYU late. I'm still taking Army. I'm a patriotic man. I'm rooting for Army. I hope they get the AAC championship. I don't think they win the game, but I do think that they could give Tulane a run for their money.
Yeah, no, I'll go Army too. I think they're too dynamic offensively. One thing I forgot to mention with that UNLV Boise game is kind of crazy. UNLV made it all year. They were the talk of the town first couple of weeks with
Yeah.
the whole Sluka transfer and everything. Kind of they
That's
got
a
that.
huge slice of humble pie, is what that
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
That eliminates your market pretty darn quick.
I know. Imagine if he stayed. Who knows if he's actually better than they're both so comparable, those two quarterbacks. But kind of
I
crazy.
think
They're
Arizona,
still
Iowa State was the Big 12 favorite for about 5 weeks, about 3 weeks ago. Arizona State's kind of come off late, crazy win against BYU, ripped down the goalpost, the second left on the clock. Coach Dillingham was literally blue in the face, yelling
freaking
so
out.
loud. I'll never trust Matt Campbell in a big game. I don't know that much about Arizona State, to be honest. I haven't watched a single Arizona State game all year. But I know Matt Campbell. I've been following Matt Campbell. I've been rooting for Matt Campbell, only to have my heart broken year after year after year. No way they win.
2 words. Cam Scatabo, the pride of Rio Linda, California. I
107
love him.
yards last week.
I loved him at Sac State. FCS guy. Respect the FCS. He's so gritty for
Do you see
Arizona.
that one play at Sacramento State where he caught a ball right in the middle of the field, broke middle linebacker, corners, strong safety, weak safety, like literally pinballed around into the end zone at State?
His center of gravity is like on the ground. Like you can't knock him over.
No.
So I think he's so electric to watch. I'm picking Arizona State. I like Kenny Dillingham. I loved how fired up he was at that. He looked like a psycho. Liked him when he was the offensive coordinator for the Ducks. So
yeah, rumor has it he gave all of, or not all of his assistants, some non-football personnel, his 10-win bonus of $200,000. Gave between $5,000 and $10,000, about 20 of them. Seems like a class act. I'm rooting for them.
Yeah.
Get into the playoffs and get that team rolling. Ohio versus Miami. Ohio. I don't know much about either of these. I'm going to go with the I believe it's the Bobcats, Ohio Bobcats.
Yes.
With the 2.5, I will take those points. A little bit of an upset here.
I don't know much about it. I know this is a gritty Ohio matchup, though, so I'll just pick the other side for fun, the Red Hawks, I think.
Good luck to you.
Pretty sure Ben Roethlisberger went there, so let's go.
Huh. We have Georgia versus Texas. How Texas is a 2.5-point favorite against Georgia beats me because Georgia legit wiped their bums with Texas last time.
They pantsed them.
It was embarrassing. And my heart immediately says, yeah, Georgia or Texas won't let Georgia do that again. The confidence that Georgia must have going into that Texas game after dominating them left and right and it being a 3-possession game, and got to be ruthless. I'm going to pick Georgia here. I think Texas wins the game, but for the sake of our pod, I'm going to go Georgia. I think Carson Beck plays a lot better in this game than he did last time. I think that the Georgia defense gets after the Texas offensive line pretty hard. Give me those points.
I'm going with Georgia, too. Not to just keep telling you besides the MAC championship, but for a couple of reasons. I think Carson Beck played so bad against Texas and they still won. And I just don't know offensively how you go in with any confidence if you're Texas because you were flip-flopping quarterbacks. Like I already mentioned that, but
Yeah.
I don't get how you go into that game with any confidence if you're Quinn Ewers. Like if I mess up in this game, am I going to get pulled? Like you know what I mean? I don't know.
No, and they have yet to really win a big game. I thought their Texas A&M game very similar to Ohio State's. I was waiting for them to kind of turn it on the entire game. Like when are we going to drop 42 points? All the great teams that have played really, really good seasons had that one tough game where they blew them out, and you're like, yep, that's the number one team in the country. Or, oh, yeah, that's a top 3 team. I haven't seen that out of Texas. I have seen it out of Georgia at times. I have seen it out of Ohio State and Oregon at times, but I have yet to see it from Texas. I think that they're going to make a run in the playoffs just because they're getting the SEC benefit of the doubt, but a loss here could really drop them out of the first round bye, certainly, and then possibly put them out of a home field advantage, which would be kind of a crazy turn of events going from 2 to 8 or 9.
100%.
Marshall playing Louisiana. I have seen a little bit of those Raging Cajuns. Very, very good team. Very, very good team. They had an extra loss in there that's probably keeping them from the playoff over Boise. I'm taking them all day of the week.
You taking the Raging Cajuns?
Oh, yeah. Give me the
I'll go for Marshall then. We Are Marshall. Great movie. And they pull out the win.
We got Oregon at Penn State. Your 2 teams. This has got to be very tough to watch. I'm assuming it's one where you're not going to be celebrating either way. I think you'd probably be celebrating Penn State.
Blood sicker than water. Like I got to ride with Carly. I got to ride with the Nittany Lions. I think
a little bit of a bandwagon jumper with Oregon. I'm not gonna lie. So
That's crazy. I've liked him since 7th grade. That's legit. I don't know how old am I, 25? That's like more than a decade, so that's crazy to say. But that being said, blood thicker than water, God
Yeah.
ride with Nittany Lions. It'd be
I'm
awesome.
thinking Penn State too here, Johnny. I think that
I think they're better than people say they are.
they are, and they know how to win the close games. In Penn State,
Defense is good.
been in only one tough game. In reality, they probably should have lost that game against Ohio State, right? They were driving and they had 3 really bad plays. Penn State knows how to play a really tight, close game. James Franklin's got to throw everything at the bank to get this Big Ten championship. And I don't think that Oregon can lose this game and not lose their reputation. Penn State also is not going to lose any kind of reputation, but the stock is much higher if James this game. So I think there's a lot more pressure on Penn State here.
I think both teams are in no matter what. I hope it's close. I hope no one beats up on the other guy. So I'm going to take Penn State. But, I think these are 2 tremendously talented teams. I think Oregon, everyone has already given them their flowers. I think Penn State's a team that they lost to Ohio State, and people kind of were like, same old Penn State, but that defense is so talented.
I wouldn't say that was the same old Penn State. I would say that was just bad coaching. We'll revisit that one, but dude, they were on the goal line twice. Twice.
I think this team is far too talented for people to write them off.
I think their defense is very, very good. I think that they can give Oregon a run for their money. I'd be a little bit concerned about a shootout. We have SMU playing Clemson, 2.5 points towards SMU. I'm taking that all day long. I don't think Clemson's a very good team. Coming off a very tough win against South Carolina. They beat South Carolina. They're in the playoffs regardless. They didn't. So they're in do or die mode. I just don't think they got enough.
I'm going to pick Clemson. I think they're bigger. I think they're faster. I think they're stronger. I think Cade Klubnik kind of has a signature game.
Yeah, I think that Clemson's probably built for the playoff more. So I would low-key love if Notre Dame saw Clemson in the playoff and showed them who their daddy was. But, I don't ever remember the conference championships being this close in spread. I think that this is kind of remarkable. The biggest spread we're seeing is 5.5 points.
A lot of fun.
Which is a lot of fun versus when we had we had divisions in conferences and we'd see those 5-loss, East winners or the West.
Get in. We'd see some stuff like that.
Yeah, so it'll be a really good one. Not many games to pick your Cheesecake Factory upset pick of the week. Because the spreads are so low, we're going to round up those half points. So if it's a 4.5 point, we're going to round up to 5 here, Johnny.
You're trying to catch me, I see.
Try sliding that one in. Who do you got for me?
I was going to let you go first, but if I'm going first.
Go with UNLV at +4.
You want the points there.
I think that Boise has been a little bit overhyped, and everyone's
banged up. They're banged up.
Very, very close to catching them week in and week out. I think this is the week.
I'm going to go Georgia over Texas, round that up to 3. I don't know why Texas.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you pick someone that's under 3 points, it rounds down.
Oh, sweet. Awesome. Good to know. I'm still taking Georgia for all the reasons I already said. Yeah. I don't know why they're not the favorite. I think
all the championships at neutral field.
Okay, that's another thing we don't need to talk about, but Georgia, Texas is at a neutral field, but it's in Atlanta. Which is
Georgia gets that timing
every time. It's because they have the Mercedes-Benz Dome. But it's
that game against Georgia Tech is not talked about enough. I was kind of hoping they would lose that game because
that was awesome though. I love Brent Key at Georgia Tech. He seems like an absolute psycho, but they asked him before the game about Georgia, and he said, "There's nothing in this world I hate more than Georgia." And I was like, "That rocks, dude!" Psycho. And also, I know Florida State's had a really bad season, but if you told me before the season that Georgia Tech was going to beat Florida State and Miami, you'd be like, "Dude, Brent Key, give him a lifetime extension." So,
Yeah, no, it's crazy. The coaching carousel has already kind of started. Our friend Gus Malzahn at UCF has stepped down.
But didn't he step down to go be is he going to be, I think he's going to be the offensive coordinator at Florida next year. Weird Florida State. Weird hire.
Super, super weird. He must have his roots a little bit in Florida, and his door was probably shutting on UCF.
I just feel like
Edwards fired from Arizona yet?
I don't know, but with the Gus Malzahn thing, but just before we go, I feel like with offensive coordinators, everyone's trying to go younger, go younger. And it's weird that they go with Gus Malzahn. He kind of really hasn't shown anything in a long time in college football. So I think that's a weird hire.
I don't get that one whatsoever. The coaching carousel is going to start. I would not be surprised if some of these big teams, if they underperformed in the playoffs, would have some openings. But besides that, like there's still a lot of coaching positions. There's not a lot of coaching positions that are readily available, like where an up and coming coach could inherit.
Yeah.
Like in Kiffin, everyone was saying this is last year at Ole Miss, but I'm not really sure where he could go.
Yeah.
I do think that Lincoln Riley is going to be there for another year. But we can talk about that a little bit next week. Johnny, good luck to your Nittany Lions this week. I am truly rooting for them.
Yes.
And it'll be a fun one.
Awesome. See you later.